The morning that changed everything, Diana Hartwell woke to the sound of silence. Not the peaceful kind that comes with contentment, but the heavy, suffocating silence that had become her constant companion in the Boston penthouse she shared with her husband. The autumn sun filtered through floor-tizzling windows, casting long shadows across the king-size bed where she lay alone. Despite Julian sleeping mere inches away on his side, turned completely away from her, she studied the back of his head, his dark hair perfectly styled even in sleep, and wondered when exactly she had become invisible to him. 2 years of marriage, and she could count on one hand the number of times he had truly looked at her in the past 6 months. Wife and name only, Julian Prescott, was already dressed in his signature charcoal suit by the time Diana made it to the kitchen. He stood at the granite counter, scrolling through his phone with one hand while holding a protein shake in the other. He didn't look up when she entered. "Good morning," Diana said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Morning." "Ah." His response was automatic, mechanical. Still no eye contact. Diana poured herself coffee, her hands trembling slightly. She had rehearsed what she wanted to say 100 times in her head during the sleepless hours of the night. Today would be different. Today, she would make him listen. "Julian, we need to talk about us." He sighed, the kind of exasperated sound someone makes when interrupted during important work. "Diana, I have back-to-back meetings today. The merger with the Vancouver tech firm is at a critical stage." "We're at a critical stage," she said, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. "Our marriage is at a critical stage." Finally, he looked at her. His gray eyes were cool, assessing, as if she were a business problem to be solved, rather than the woman he had promised to love forever. "Our marriage is fine. You have everything you could want. The penthouse, the car, unlimited credit. What more do you need?" The truth comes out. Diana set down her coffee cup with more force than intended. "I need you, Julian. I need a husband who talks to me, who asks about my day, who remembers that I exist when we're in the same room." "You're being dramatic, am I?" Diana felt something inside her shift, a tectonic plate of emotion that had been building pressure for months. "When was the last time we had dinner together? When did you last ask me how I was feeling? When did you last touch me with anything resembling affection?" Julian checked his watch, a gesture that said more than words ever could. "I don't have time for this emotional outburst. We're adults, Diana. Marriage isn't some fairy tale romance. It's a partnership. A practical arrangement." "A practical arrangement," Diana repeated, the words tasting bitter on her tongue. "Is that what I am to you? A practical arrangement?" He moved toward the door, clearly intending to leave without resolving anything, without even acknowledging her pain. But Diana stepped in front of him, blocking his path. It was the first time in their marriage she had physically stood in his way. "Move, Diana. Not until you answer me honestly. Do you love me, Julian? Have you ever loved me?" The question hung in the air between them like a guillotine blade. Julian's jaw tightened, and for a moment, Diana thought she saw something flicker in his eyes. Regret? Guilt? But it vanished as quickly as it appeared. "I can't give you what you're asking for," he said coldly. "I can't love you the way you want to be loved. I tried to be clear about my expectations before we married. I can provide stability, security, a good life. That's what I offered, and that's what I've given you." The weight of words, "I can't love you." The 4 words echoed in Diana's mind long after Julian left the penthouse. She stood frozen in the hallway, staring at the closed door, feeling as though her entire world had just collapsed around her. She had suspected it, of course. Deep down, she had known for months that Julian didn't love her. But hearing him say it out loud so matter-of-factly, as if he were discussing quarterly earnings, rather than destroying her heart, was something else entirely. Diana walked slowly back to the bedroom, her legs feeling like lead. She caught her reflection in the full-length mirror and barely recognized herself. The woman staring back at her looked hollow, diminished, like a watercolor painting left out in the rain. Her blonde hair, once vibrant, hung limply around her shoulders. Her hazel eyes, which her mother always said sparkled with life, looked dull and lifeless. Who had she become? The Diana from 3 years ago, the woman who had graduated top of her class in art history, who had dreams of opening her own gallery, who laughed easily and loved deeply. Where was she? The decision. Diana opened her closet and pulled out the vintage leather suitcase her grandmother had given her. It had traveled the world with her during college, accompanying her through study abroad programs in Paris and Florence. Holding her journals and sketchbooks and dreams, she began packing methodically. Not the designer dresses Julian's stylist had chosen for charity galas. Not the uncomfortable heels that made her feet bleed during society events. Instead, she packed her favorite worn jeans, the oversized sweaters that smelled like cinnamon and made her feel safe, the vintage band t-shirts she had collected over the years in the back of her drawer. Buried beneath silk scarves she never wore, Diana found her old sketchbook. She flipped through the pages, seeing pencil drawings of landscapes, portraits of friends, abstract designs that captured emotions she could no longer name. When had she stopped drawing? When had she stopped being herself? Diana knew the answer. She had stopped the day she agreed to become Mrs. Julian Prescott. The day she had convinced herself that love would be enough to bridge the gap between who she was and who he needed her to be. Leaving behind the gilded cage, she wrote the note on plain paper. Not the monogrammed stationery Julian had ordered with her new married name embossed in gold. Julian, you said you can't love me? I finally understand that this isn't a failing on my part. Some people simply aren't capable of the kind of love I need. I deserve more than being someone's practical arrangement. I deserve to be seen, heard, and cherished. I'm leaving to remember who I was before I became your invisible wife. Don't look for me. I need time to find myself again, Diana. She left the note on his pillow, next to the space where she would no longer sleep. The wedding ring came off her finger with surprising ease, as if it too understood it didn't belong there anymore. Journey to freedom, the taxi ride to South Station felt surreal. Boston rushed past the windows, the city where she had thought she would build her life. Now it just felt like a beautiful prison she was finally escaping. Diana bought a ticket on the next train heading south. The destination didn't matter as much as the direction, away. The train to Charleston departed in 20 minutes. Charleston, where her best friend Natalie had moved 2 years ago. Charleston, where Diana had once spent spring break during college. Falling in love with the historic architecture and moss-draped oak trees, she called Natalie from the platform. Diana? Natalie's warm voice was like balm on a wound. Is everything okay? I left him, Nat. I finally left Julian. There was a pause. Then Natalie's voice came back fierce and protective. Where are you? South Station. I'm getting on a train to Charleston. I know this is sudden, but could I stay with you for a while? I need time to figure out my next steps. Diana Hartwell, you get on that train right now. I'll be at the station when you arrive. And honey, I'm so proud of you. The train ride. As the train pulled out of the station, Diana pressed her forehead against the cool glass window and watched Boston disappear. She felt the tears come then, hot and unstoppable, streaming down her face as the weight of the past 2 years finally broke free. A middle-aged woman, sitting across from her, offered a tissue. Heartbreak, she asked kindly. Diana took the tissue gratefully. The end of a marriage. Sometimes endings are just new beginnings in disguise, the woman said. I left my first husband 30 years ago. Best decision I ever made. Now I'm married to a man who makes me laugh every single day. Diana managed a watery smile. I hope I can find that someday. Right now, I just need to find myself. The woman nodded knowingly. That's always the first step, dear. As the train traveled south, Diana pulled out her old sketchbook and a pencil. Her hand trembled at first, uncertain after so long away from creating, but then muscle memory took over and she began to draw. She sketched the passing landscape, the other passengers. The feeling of motion and change and possibility. For the first time in 2 years, Diana felt something other than emptiness. She felt hope. It was fragile and tentative, like the first green shoot pushing through frozen ground. But it was there. She was leaving behind Julian Prescott and his cold penthouse and his incapacity to love. But more importantly, she was leaving behind the diminished version of herself she had become. Somewhere between Boston and Charleston, Diana Hartwell began the journey back to herself. The train rushed through the autumn afternoon, carrying her toward an uncertain future. But uncertainty, Diana realized, was better than the slow death of remaining invisible in a marriage that had never really been a marriage at all. Welcome to Charleston. The Charleston station glowed warm in the late afternoon light when Diana's train finally pulled in. Through the window, she spotted Natalie immediately. Her auburn hair catching the sun like copper wire, her face bright with concern and welcome. The moment Diana stepped onto the platform, Natalie enveloped her in a hug that felt like coming home. "You're here. You're really here," Natalie whispered, holding her tight. "Come on, let's get you settled." Natalie's cottage was everything Julian's penthouse wasn't. Small but cozy, with mismatched furniture that had stories behind each piece, walls painted in soft yellows and blues, and windows that opened to let in the smell of magnolia blossoms. Plants thrived on every surface, and books were stacked in cheerful disorder on homemade shelves. "It's perfect," Diana said, setting down her suitcase in the guest room. The walls were covered in vintage travel posters, and a handmade quilt lay across the bed. "It's mine," Natalie replied with a smile that Diana remembered from their college days. "Every single thing here I chose because I loved it, not because it matched some designer's vision of what my life should look like." That night, they sat on the back porch with sweet tea, and Diana told Natalie everything. Not just about the final conversation with Julian, but about the slow erosion of herself over 2 years. The way she had shrunk and dimmed and disappeared. I became a ghost in my own life," Diana admitted, watching fireflies dance in the gathering darkness. "And the worst part is, I let it happen. I kept thinking, if I could just be better, more perfect, more what he needed, then he would finally love me." Natalie reached over and squeezed her hand. "You know what I see? I see a woman who finally found the courage to choose herself. That takes more strength than staying ever could." Rediscovering color the next morning, Diana woke to birdsong instead of traffic noise. She came downstairs to find Natalie making pancakes, humming along to jazz music playing from an old radio. "So," Natalie said, flipping a pancake with practiced ease, "what do you want to do today? And I don't mean what you should do or what someone expects you to do. What does Diana actually want?" Diana thought about it. When was the last time anyone had asked her that question? When was the last time she had even asked herself? "I want to walk somewhere without a destination. I want to draw something. I want to feel like myself again." And that's exactly what we'll do. They spent the morning wandering through the historic district. Diana found herself stopping every few feet, captivated by architectural details she wanted to sketch. The way light played through wrought iron gates, the vibrant purple of bougainvillea climbing brick walls, the weathered texture of centuries-old cobblestones. She pulled out her sketchbook and began drawing, her hand moving across the page with increasing confidence. People passed by, some stopping to watch, offering compliments. Diana felt exposed at first, then liberated. In Boston, she had learned to make herself small and unnoticed. Here, creating art in public felt like reclaiming space in the world. The gallery that afternoon. Natalie took Diana to a small art gallery near the waterfront. "I volunteer here on weekends," she explained. "The owner, Margaret, is amazing. She features local artists and offers classes." The gallery was housed in a converted warehouse with high ceilings and walls painted white to showcase the artwork. Diana moved slowly through the space, drinking in landscapes, abstracts, sculptures made from driftwood and sea glass. "You have a good eye." A voice beside her made Diana turn. A man stood there, maybe 32 or 33, with kind brown eyes and paint-stained hands. He wore jeans and a faded Henley shirt, his dark blonde hair slightly messy in a way that suggested he'd been running his fingers through it while working. "Thank you," Diana said. "Are these your pieces?" He nodded. "Owen Mitchell. I'm the featured artist this month. These are for my coastal series." Diana looked back at the paintings. They captured the South Carolina coast in all its moods, stormy and serene, vibrant and muted. They're beautiful. You can feel the salt air just looking at them. Owen's face lit up with genuine pleasure at the compliment. "That's exactly what I'm trying to capture. That sensory memory of the ocean." He gestured to her sketchbook, which she'd forgotten she was still carrying. "Are you an artist too?" Diana hesitated. Was she? She hadn't called herself an artist in years. "I used to draw. I'm trying to start again. The best time to start is always now," Owen said. "Margaret offers pottery classes here on Tuesday and Thursday evenings. I teach painting on Saturdays. You should come sometime." Finding her rhythm, Diana signed up for both classes the next day. The pottery class felt meditative, her hands shaping clay into forms that emerged organically rather than according to some predetermined plan. She made bowls that were slightly uneven, vases with fingerprints pressed into the surface, small sculptures that looked like nothing and everything at once. "Don't think so much," the instructor said during her second class. "Let your hands remember what they know." Owen's painting class was different. He taught them to see light and shadow, to mix colors until they captured exactly the shade of memory or emotion they were chasing. Diana found herself painting things she hadn't realized she remembered: her grandmother's garden in spring, the view from her dorm room window during her favorite semester abroad, the way hope looked when translated into brush strokes of yellow and gold. "You have real talent," Owen told her after class on Saturday. "Studying the canvas she'd been working on. But more than that, you have honesty. These paintings are true." Diana felt herself blushing. She wasn't used to genuine compliments, to being seen for what she created rather than how she appeared. "Thank you. That means a lot. Would you like to grab coffee sometime?" Owen asked, and there was a nervousness in his voice that made him seem younger, vulnerable. "I'd love to hear about your artistic journey. What brought you to Charleston?" Diana's immediate instinct was to say no, to protect herself, to avoid complications. But then she thought about what Natalie had said: choose yourself. And sometimes choosing yourself meant choosing to be open to new connections, new possibilities. "I'd like that," she said. Coffee and conversations. They met at a small cafe tucked between bookshops, the kind of place with mismatched chairs and local art on the walls. Owen ordered black coffee. Diana got chai tea with honey, something she'd always loved but Julian had considered too sweet, too unsophisticated. "So what brought you to Charleston?" Owen asked, settling into his chair with easy comfort. Diana wrapped her hands around her warm mug. "I needed to remember who I was. I'd lost myself for a while." Owen nodded, his expression understanding rather than pitying. "I get that. I moved here 3 years ago after burning out in New York. I was doing commercial work, making good money. But I couldn't remember the last time I'd painted something because I wanted to rather than because someone was paying me to." "What changed?" "I realized I had a choice. I could keep living for external validation and security, or I could live for myself. It wasn't easy. I gave up a lot. But I found something more valuable than security. I found purpose." They talked for hours about art and dreams and the courage it takes to start over. Owen told her about teaching workshops to kids from low-income neighborhoods, how watching them discover their creativity reminded him why art mattered. Diana found herself opening up about her marriage, about Julian's coldness, about the moment she finally chose to leave. "He told you he couldn't love you." Owen's voice was incredulous. "Diana, anyone who can't see your light isn't looking. The problem was never you." Diana felt tears prick her eyes. "I think I'm starting to believe that." A call from Boston 3 weeks into her Charleston life. Diana's phone rang with a Boston number she didn't recognize. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Mrs. Prescott." An unfamiliar male voice. "This is Gregory Westfield, Julian's business partner. I'm calling because there's been a situation." Diana's stomach tightened. "What kind of situation?" "Julian's company is facing a major scandal. Allegations of financial misconduct have surfaced. The board is calling for his resignation. The press is having a field day." He paused. "Your absence is being noted. It's making things worse. People are speculating about instability in his personal life affecting his professional judgment." "I'm not responsible for Julian's choices," Diana said firmly. "Professional or personal?" "Of course not. But I'm calling to ask if you might consider returning, even temporarily, to present a united front. It could help stabilize the situation." Diana looked out the window of Natalie's cottage. At the garden, where she'd been planting herbs that morning, At the easel set up in the corner with her latest painting still wet. "No," she said. "I'm not coming back to save Julian's image. He made it very clear I was a practical arrangement, not a partner. He can handle this the way he handles everything else, alone." She hung up, feeling shaky but certain. This was the old Diana they were calling. It's the one who bent and accommodated and made herself smaller for everyone else's comfort. That Diana was gone, an unexpected visitor 2 days later. Diana was in her pottery class, focused on centering clay on the wheel, when Natalie appeared in the doorway looking worried. "Diana, you have a visitor at the cottage. Julian's here." Diana's hand stilled, the clay wobbling off center. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "Did he say what he wants?" "Just that he needs to talk to you. I told him you might not be ready, but he's waiting on the porch. I can send him away if you want." Diana took a deep breath, wiped her clay-covered hands on her apron. "No, I'll talk to him. It's time." Julian looked out of place on Natalie's cheerful porch, in his expensive suit and polished shoes. He stood when Diana approached, and she was shocked by his appearance. He'd lost weight. His eyes were shadowed. The confident CEO she'd left in Boston looked diminished, uncertain. "Diana," he said, and his voice cracked slightly on her name. "Why are you here, Julian?" "Everything's falling apart. The company, my reputation, everything I built." He ran a hand through his hair, messing up his usually perfect styling. "Gregory said he called you. I told him not to, but he did anyway. If you came here expecting me to save you, you've wasted your time." "No." He stepped closer, then seemed to think better of it and stayed where he was. "I came because losing my company made me realize I'd already lost something far more valuable. I lost you. And I lost you because I was too blind and too afraid to see what I had." Diana crossed her arms, protecting herself. "You told me you couldn't love me." "I know. I was wrong." Julian's eyes were wet. "I was so wrong, Diana. I thought love was weakness. I thought needing someone made you vulnerable. My father raised me to believe emotion was a liability in business, so I shut it all down. But being alone now, facing this crisis without you, I understand. Strength isn't avoiding love. It's having the courage to open your heart even when it's terrifying." Pretty words, Julian. "But I spent 2 years being invisible to you. 2 years hoping you'd finally see me. I'm not going back to that. I'm not asking you to." He pulled something from his pocket, an envelope. "These are divorce papers. Already signed. I had my lawyer draw them up. You get the penthouse, half of everything, more if you want it. I'm not here to trap you or obligate you." Diana stared at the envelope, confused. "Then why are you here?" "Because I needed you to know that I finally understand what I lost. Because you deserve to hear me say I'm sorry. Because even if you never forgive me, you should know that you were right. You deserved so much more than I gave you." His voice broke completely. "You deserved love, Diana. Real love. And I hope you find it, even if it's not with me." The weight of apologies, Diana took the envelope from Julian but didn't open it. They stood on opposite ends of the porch, the physical distance between them representing so much more than just feet and inches. "Come inside," Diana finally said. "We should talk properly." Julian followed her into the cottage, his eyes taking in every detail. The cozy clutter, the artwork on the walls, the pottery pieces Diana had made lining the windowsill. "This place suits you," he said quietly. "It's warm, full of life. Our penthouse never felt like this. It's because it was your penthouse, Julian. I was just living in it." He sat at Natalie's kitchen table. Diana made tea, an automatic gesture of hospitality, though her hands shook slightly as she poured. Julian wrapped his hands around the mug she gave him, but didn't drink. "Tell me about Charleston," he said. "What you've been doing here?" Diana hesitated, then decided honesty was the only path forward. "I've been taking art classes, pottery and painting. I've made a friend named Owen who teaches and creates beautiful work. I've been waking up happy. I've been remembering who I was before I became your wife." She watched Julian's face carefully when she mentioned Owen. Saw the flash of pain in his eyes, but he didn't protest or demand details. "That's good," he said, and seemed to mean it. "You stopped drawing when we got married?" "I noticed, but I never asked you why." "There's a long list of things I noticed and never asked about." "I know," Diana asked. "Why show up here with apologies now that your perfect life is crumbling? Is this about really seeing me? Or is it about you needing someone when things get hard?" Julian flinched at the question, but he didn't look away. "That's fair. An honest answer? Maybe it's both. Losing the company forced me into therapy. My counselor made me look at patterns I'd been avoiding my whole life. The way I equate success with worth. The way I keep people at arm's length to maintain control. The way I married you because I thought I should, because it looked right, but I never let you in." He set down his untouched tea. "But Diana, even if I'd kept the company, even if everything had stayed perfect on the surface, I think I still would have ended up here eventually. Because the emptiness of coming home to that penthouse without you, that's not about my career falling apart. That's about finally feeling what I'd been avoiding for 2 years. I miss you. Not the idea of you, not the convenient wife who attended functions, but you. The real you that I never took time to know." The truth about love. Diana stood and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the garden where she'd spent the morning. Her hands in the soil, planting things that would grow and bloom. "Do you know what my favorite color is?" she asked suddenly. Julian opened his mouth, then closed it. "Blue," he guessed. "Green? Specifically, the green of new leaves in spring." "Do you know my favorite book?" "Silence. It's The House on Mango Street. I've read it at least 15 times. Do you know what I dream about when I let myself dream?" "No," Julian admitted, his voice small. Diana turned to face him. "I dream about opening a community art center where people who think they're not creative can discover they are. I dream about teaching kids that making art isn't about perfection, it's about expression. I dream about a life where I matter, where my presence makes a difference, where I'm not just decorative but essential." "You are essential," Julian said. "I just couldn't see it." "No, Julian, I wasn't essential to your life. I was optional. Your days ran exactly the same whether I was there or not. You never needed me, and you made sure I knew it." Diana sat back down, looking at him directly. "What you're feeling now, is it love? Or is it just the discomfort of loss? Because they're not the same thing." Julian was quiet for a long moment, really thinking about her question, instead of rushing to answer. "I think it might be both," he finally said. "I think I'm grieving what I lost, and I think that grief is teaching me what love could have been. My therapist says I have attachment issues, that I avoid intimacy because my father taught me connection equals vulnerability equals weakness. She says I sabotage relationships before they can hurt me." "That explains a lot," Diana said softly. "But Julian, your wounds aren't an excuse for how you treated me, and they're not my responsibility to heal." "I know. You asked if I'd be here if my company hadn't fallen apart? Maybe not. Maybe I needed to lose everything to face myself. But I'm here now, doing the work, taking responsibility. Not because I expect you to come back, but because I owe it to myself and to you to become someone capable of real connection." The complication of new feelings before Diana could respond. The front door opened, and Owen walked in, carrying a bag from the art supply store. He stopped short when he saw Julian. "Sorry, I didn't know you had company. Natalie said you needed more canvas, so I picked some up." Owen set the bag down, looking between Diana and Julian with careful awareness. "Owen, this is Julian, my husband." The word felt strange now. "Julian, this is Owen Mitchell. He's been teaching me painting." Two men assessed each other with the wariness of rivals. Even though nothing had happened between Diana and Owen beyond friendship and mutual respect, still, the potential hung in the air, acknowledged by everyone in the room. "I should go," Owen said. "Diana, I'll see you at class on Saturday." "Wait," Diana said. She looked at Julian. "Actually, I think you should stay, because this is part of the truth Julian needs to hear." Owen sat reluctantly, choosing a chair far from both of them. Diana took a breath and continued. "Owen has been kind to me. He's taught me not just about painting, but about seeing beauty again. He's asked about my day and listened to the answers. He's made me laugh. And yes, there's potential there. Potential for something real, something healthy. She looked at Julian. But I haven't pursued anything because I'm still married to you, and because I need to heal before I can be with anyone. Julian's knuckles were white where he gripped the edge of the table, but his voice was steady. Do you have feelings for him? I have feelings about what he represents, Diana said carefully. Hope, possibility, a future where I'm seen and valued. But I'm not in love with him, if that's what you're asking. I'm not ready to be in love with anyone, Owen spoke up, his voice gentle. Diana, for what it's worth, I'd wait, however long you need. But you don't owe me anything, and you don't need to explain yourself to anyone.
Yes.
He stood. I'm going to leave you two to talk. But Diana, I meant what I said. You're worth waiting for. After Owen left, the silence stretched between Diana and Julian, like a bridge neither knew how to cross. Making the choice, he's a good man, Julian said finally. He looks at you the way I should have been looking at you all along. Yes, he is good. But that doesn't mean I'm choosing him over you, Julian. I'm choosing me. That's what you need to understand. This isn't about picking between two men. This is about picking myself for the first time in years. Diana picked up the envelope of divorce papers. I'm going to sign these. Not because I hate you, and not because I've stopped caring. But because our marriage was broken from the start, you couldn't love me then, and even if you think you can now, it's not enough. What would be enough? Julian's voice was raw, time growth, proof that this change is real and lasting, not just a reaction to crisis. Diana met his eyes. And honestly, Julian, I don't know if anything would be enough. I don't know if I could ever trust you not to go back to being that cold, distant man once things stabilize, so this is it. It's over? Diana felt tears on her cheeks but didn't wipe them away. This version of us is over. The marriage where I was invisible and you were unavailable? Yes, that's done. Whether we could build something new, something healthier, I don't know. But it can't start until we're both whole people on our own. Julian stood, and Diana saw him struggle with the urge to touch her, to hold her, to try to fix this through physical connection. But he kept his distance, respecting her space. What do you need from me? He asked. I need you to go back to Boston. Continue your therapy. Rebuild your life. Not for me, but for yourself. Figure out who Julian Prescott is when he's not hiding behind his company and his success. And I need to do the same here. And then, maybe in 6 months, maybe in a year, we could talk again. As two separate people who've done the work. No promises, no expectations. Just honesty. Julian nodded slowly, accepting terms he clearly didn't want, but knew he couldn't negotiate. Can I ask one thing? What? Don't close the door completely. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I'm asking anyway. Let me prove I can change. Let me become someone worthy of your love, even if I never get the chance to receive it. Diana thought about it. About the man standing before her who looked nothing like the confident CEO who had told her he couldn't love her. I'm not closing the door, Julian. But I'm not waiting by it either. I'm going to live my life, heal, grow, maybe even fall in love with someone else. You don't get to pause my life while you figure yourself out, understand? Julian moved toward the door, then turned back. Your favorite color is green, like new spring leaves. Your favorite book is The House on Mango Street. You dream of opening a community art center. I'm listening now, Diana, even if it's too late. I'm finally listening. 6 months later, Diana stood in the empty warehouse space, sunlight streaming through tall windows. Already imagining where the pottery wheels would go, where they'd hang the paintings, how the light would change throughout the day. It's perfect, Natalie said beside her. The perfect place for your art center. Owen squeezed Diana's hand. You did it. You actually made your dream happen. In the 6 months since Julian had left Charleston, Diana had thrown herself into building her vision. She'd used part of the divorce settlement to secure this space, to buy equipment, to create scholarships for kids who couldn't afford classes. The Hartwell Community Art Center would open next month. She'd also let herself begin a relationship with Owen, slowly and carefully building something based on mutual respect and genuine affection. They took things at her pace, and he never pushed, never demanded more than she could give. Julian had kept his word too. He called once a month, brief conversations where he updated her on his therapy progress, asked about her life, never pressuring for more. He'd started a new business, smaller and more ethical. He'd reconnected with his sister after years of distance. He was doing the work. "There's someone here to see you," Natalie said, nodding toward the door. Diana turned and saw Julian standing in the entrance, looking uncertain. He was dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, his hair slightly longer, his expression open in a way she'd never seen before. "Hi," he said. "I know I'm early. We weren't supposed to talk until next month, but I wanted to see this." He gestured to the space. "Your dream?" Owen started to leave, but Diana stopped him. "Stay. This is part of my life now, and I'm not hiding pieces of myself anymore."
Oh.
Julian nodded his acceptance. "I'm not here to complicate things. I just wanted to say I'm proud of you. This center, it's incredible. It's exactly what you described." "Thank you," Diana said, and meant it. "How are you?" "Better, different. I'm learning to sit with feelings instead of burying them. It's uncomfortable as hell, but it's real." He looked at Owen, then back to Diana. "I can see you're happy?" "Genuinely happy. That's what I wanted for you." "I am happy," Diana confirmed. "Not because of any man, but because I chose myself. The art center, the life I'm building, the relationships I'm nurturing, it's all mine." Julian smiled, and it was sad but genuine. That's how it should be. "I'm sorry I ever made you feel like you needed to be less so I could be more." They talked for a while, the three of them, and it wasn't comfortable exactly, but it was honest. Julian met Natalie, saw Diana's artwork displayed on the walls, heard about her plans for the grand opening. When he left, he hugged Diana briefly, a gesture that held goodbye and blessing in equal measure. "Be happy," he whispered. "That's all I want now. For you to be completely, authentically happy." Diana watched him go, feeling closure settle over her like a soft blanket. She turned to Owen, who was looking at her with patient love in his eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I really am," Diana said, surprised by how true it was. "I loved who I thought he was, and then I hurt because of who he actually was. And now I'm finally free of needing anything from him, and us." Owen asked carefully. Diana took his hand. "Us is whatever we build together, one honest day at a time." The grand opening, the Hartwell Community Art Center, opened on a bright Saturday in April. The warehouse was transformed. Filled with easels and pottery wheels, walls painted in vibrant colors, spaces designed for creation and discovery, Diana stood at the entrance. Greeting families and individuals who had signed up for classes, she saw children's eyes light up when they saw the art supplies. She watched a teenage girl run her hands over canvas, already imagining what she would create. She hugged elderly community members who said they'd always wanted to learn but never had the chance. Natalie had helped organize everything, creating a beautiful chaos of welcome. Owen taught the first painting class, his gentle encouragement helping nervous beginners make their first brushstrokes. Diana moved through the space, heart full to bursting. This was what choosing herself looked like. Not a man, not a marriage, not external validation, but this. Creating space for others to discover their own voices, their own visions, their own worth. Her phone buzzed with a text. It was from Julian. "Saw the article about the grand opening. You're changing lives. That's the Diana I should have seen all along. Congratulations." She smiled and put the phone away. Julian's approval didn't define her anymore. Neither did his absence. She had found something far more valuable than being loved by someone else. She had found the ability to love herself completely, to build a life of meaning and purpose, to be whole on her own terms. Owen came up behind her, paint on his hands, joy on his face. "Your dream is alive," he said. "How does it feel?" Diana looked around at the center, at the people creating and discovering and becoming. "It feels like coming home to myself," she said. "Finally and completely home." And in that moment, surrounded by color and creativity and possibility, Diana Hartwell understood that this was the real love story. Not the one where someone else completed her, but the one where she learned to be complete on her own, and from that wholeness, could truly connect with others. The CEO had said he couldn't love her, and his inability to love had been the catalyst for her learning to love herself. Sometimes the greatest gift someone can give you is the freedom that comes from letting you go. Diana had walked away from a gilded cage and found her wings, and now, finally, she was flying.